In this lecture, we're going to take a look at some of the Azure core services, and really the goal here is to help you understand this map that Microsoft routinely updates around how they look at their services, their infrastructure, etc. So with that, let's really begin here. On the bottom, as you can see, data center infrastructure. So to begin with, that's what Microsoft is maintaining for us. They are racking, they're stacking the servers. They deal with security, they deal with who goes in and out of the data center, they deal with capacity and everything they need there. That's on them. The first layer that we really need to focus on is the infrastructure services layer, which is where a lot of us begin when we're working with enterprises. We have to get this kind of core foundational layer in place because a lot of the platform services above utilize services in the infrastructure services layer. So let's begin by looking at this layer. Well, on the left-hand side, we have compute services, the major ones being virtual machines and containers. There are also things like Azure Functions and Logic Apps, which work as part of compute services as well. And some of them you'll see above in the platform services area. So typically, Microsoft thinks about compute here as, okay, I've got virtual machines and containers, but perhaps, if you just quickly glance at the platform services area there, we've got VM scale sets, container service, batch, dev test lab. Those are all additional services that really rely on compute, but are more sort of PaaS based because they're sort of managing more services for you as part of that. You're not dealing with that as much. But in this compute layer, this is your typical VMs, containers, which we're going to go into more detail when we hit virtual machines and containers specifically. Then we have our storage services, so typically blob, queue, file, and disks. If you're just doing virtual machines to begin with in the cloud, you're probably building disks, you're probably building some blob storage, which is an object store, and that's where we put objects on. They could be JPEGs, etc., just bits and bytes that we want to store, queues and files. But storage, forms the backbone again of a lot of the other services that we connect to, and we utilize storage throughout pretty much every service we utilize in Azure. Then we have networking, a lot of rich services available here, and truly one of the benefits that Microsoft gives us from a public cloud perspective, because here we have our virtual network. We can just build a network in seconds in the cloud. We can build our network, our subnets. Then we can add on features like load balancers to our applications. There's multiple load balancer types available, all provided as software that we can utilize. We have DNS services available to us. We have ExpressRoute, which allows us to connect with a dedicated link from our on-premises data center to Azure. We have Traffic Manager, which is a global traffic manager that allows traffic to come in. It's DNS-based routing and tells us, hey, go to site A or go to site B, depending on where you want users for your application to go. We have VPN gateways that allow us to connect our different regions together or allow us to connect to on-premises over a VPN as well. And we have App Gateway, a more advanced load balancer and web application firewall. So rich amount of services here, in the networking, space as a whole. Then if we look up at platform services, and again, we'll go through some of these in a little bit more detail later on, but just look at the rich amount of services available. And if I'll point you to data in the top right, first of all, where we've got SQL Database, SQL Data Warehouse, Document DB, Azure Search, all there. If we drop down, we have intelligence services, we have bot frameworks if we want to create chatbots, cognitive services that can look at images, that can read speech, and tell you what it's basically saying as text, analytics and IoT, machine learning, data catalog, all these things that are here available to us. If we move towards the left, we've got all these developer services and application platforms that we can deploy, and then we have a whole bunch of integration and content delivery systems as well. So these essentially are going to run in your Azure region. You'll learn more about Azure regions, but are going to give your application team more services that they can use without necessarily having to manage virtual machines under the covers all the time. Then we have security and management features. So one of the big things Microsoft provides is Azure Active Directory, something that's been very welcomed in the industry as a move from these legacy domain controllers into more of a SaaS-based directory, modern directory service that's available. Other things here around security like multi-factor authentication, Azure Security Center, Key Vault, a lot of things here to help secure your environment. And then everything Microsoft does, they are looking at it from a hybrid perspective as well. So you do have services that manage on-prem and in the public cloud. Two good examples here are backup and operational analytics. So backup means I can back up my servers on premises, back them up to the cloud. I can do analytics on-prem in the cloud. I can do AD health monitoring, from a hybrid scenario perspective. So I'm monitoring my AD Connect services. In addition, I've got like Azure Site Recovery for migration, between clouds from on-prem to the cloud. all of this is available to us. So the major thing here is to really just become aware of all the services available. And what we'll do next is just go into a demo. We'll just log into Azure. So if you haven't seen it for the first time, we'll log in and just give you a brief tour of the environment, and you'll see some of these services, as we look around.